Ohma Tokita is a man who loves fighting. There's only one word to describe him: alpha freaking male. Yamashita Kazuo, on the other hand, is old, poor, divorced, and almost dead on the inside. One day, as Yamashita is walking back home, he notices a fight between Ohma and another bulky guy. Despite the obviously greater bulk and power from the other man, Ohma channels his main character's energy and quickly beats up the guy, proving that power is nothing when it comes to plot armor. Yamashita watches all this in horror, and for the first time in years, Ohma's aura itself fills the old man with excitement and adrenaline. Until, well, Ohma notices him. The man thinks that Yamashita is going to challenge him for a fight, but just look at the poor guy. There's no way. Yamashita cowers as he watches the fighter leave. Now, it had been years since Yamashita had ever felt this way, this excitement. Everything is so new and so different for him. A man who, even in the prime of his life, never drank, gambled, or fooled around with women, rushes to a local gentleman's club and sleeps with a random chick, all by the excitement he received from Ohma's aura. Despite all that, this just lasts Yamashita for a day, and the next day he is back at his beta male ways. At his office, he is being scolded by his boss for some reason that he doesn't even know, but he sucks it up. But that's just what he's good at. Just then, they are interrupted by the boss's boss, who takes Yamashita to another office. The old man's life will never be the same again. At the office, Yamashita is confronted by the CEO of the whole establishment, Nogi Hideki. Yes, it does seem weird now, and yes, it gets weirder as anime plots go. Nogi starts explaining about conflict resolution and how business is really done in the world of businessmen. Turns out, the whole civilized fiasco is only for show. Every form of business deal is carried out by fights. Yes, fights. Business corporations from all over the world have their own fighters. Each fight gives the winning company the right to steal a deal from the losing company or make them do whatever they want. Yamashita is confused. Why was he being told all of these things? Turns out, their company was actually hiring a new fighter that Yamashita was to take care of until the fights start happening. You can call it the height of coincidence, or the literal plot of the anime, but the fighter that the company hires turns out to be Ohma. Unsurprisingly so, Yamashita is excited to help out Ohma. Considering that only one encounter with the man made him such a maniac last night, a few days would mean his life would be back on track, probably. The old man quickly races to his home where he lives with his two sons, or, well, frankly, he tries to live there. His wife has already left him 10 years ago for a reason he never knew. His older son has locked himself inside his room for like 2 years now, and the father and son haven't even seen each other's face since, and finally, his younger son is somewhere partying every day with his trash friends. Yamashita is a stranger in his own home, and this new opportunity has given him a way out. After sorting some things at his home, he goes to meet up with Ohma, who lives in a really huge yet worn-down mansion. There, Ohma is all soaked in blood, and no, it's not his, but the anime won't discuss that any further as two men arrive at the door. One of the men is actually Ivan Karyev, a famous Russian fighter who obviously wants to battle Ohma for no apparent reason. And obviously, he gets beaten to a pulp with just one blow. The man tries to get up, but his partner, with a flash of his hands, slices his neck and puts him to eternal rest. He then introduces himself as Lihito, Tokita's opponent in the next battle, which the businessmen call the Kengan matches. We then switch to the day of the match itself, and Lihito is fully oiled and ready for the battle, and so is Ohma. Yamashita is also there with his boss and his secretary Akiyama, who explains that the wager of this fight is for the right for constructing a building in the city whose budget is roughly 100 billion yen. That's a lot of money, and it all depended on Ohma to make them win. The battle soon begins with Lihito and Ohma locked in. For some time, the two fighters barely move, studying each other's moves, and then suddenly it happens. The two lunge at each other with pace, with Tokita landing the first punch, but Lihito resisting the blow by pressing his head forward, robbing it of power. Lihito was moving towards the hit to make sure the impact was dampened, and Ohma couldn't generate enough power behind his punches. Despite all this, Ohma takes the upper hand soon and pins Lihito down, but Lihito has his own set of special skills he has yet to show. Turns out the man has incredible pinching strength. Yes, you heard it right, pinching, not punching. He is also known as the Razor Blade, and apparently can pull pinches so quickly that literal blood vessels could be broken. This does cause some issues for a while, but Ohma quickly finds a solution. If he got too close to the man and stopped his hands from closing, there would be no pinch to pull off. Using this technique and the brutality of his legs, Ohma immediately turns the battle around once more, and soon enough, the battle is done and dusted. Lihito is done on the floor beaten. Ohma was made for these fights, but Nogi wants to give him one final test before the real deal starts. So, all this was just practice up until now. Next, Ohma is paired to fight against another man who has a 57-match undefeated record. This was the real deal. If he could deal with this guy, he was surely ready to take on the actual fight. So, a few days later, Yamashita takes Ohma to the showdown. This time, Nogi and his assistant only watch on from the shadows. The real test had finally begun. The opposing fighter then steps into the ring, and his name was Sekibayashi Jun. The man is so large and bulky that he probably would need no CGI to become Hulk. His muscles speak for themselves. When the bulky man notices the puny Ohma before him, he tries to reason with the guy and asks him to give up. It was pretty apparent that Sekibayashi would absolutely decimate the lad, but Ohma starts attacking before the discussion can begin. As expected, Ohma begins taking the upper hand at first after attacking out of the blur, but Sekibayashi takes it all like a champ and even laughs it all off while he can. The attack seems to hurt his face and body, but there is not a smudge of pain on his senses. Soon enough, Sekibayashi starts beating down on Ohma instead with all his force and slams the comparatively puny man to unconsciousness. The man then carries Ohma on his back, ready to deliver a killer move like a WWE fighter, when suddenly, Ohma's body changes. Yes, of course, the power of the main character, plot armor, kicks in. Ohma wakes up, his body all red and him out of Sekibayashi's grip. The big lad even has a lot of his fingers broken because of this, but still, there is no pain in his nerves. The battle rages on, and still, Sekibayashi has the upper hand, but this time, it turns out that Ohma was only leading the man in, and when he gets an opening, Ohma delivers a final blow, right to the fighter's windpipe, so hard that his own fingers break. But the battle is won. Ohma is victorious yet again. The wager of this whole battle turns out to be so that Nogi can influence the other company to vote for the change of the chairman of the whole Kengan Battle Association. From the shadows, the current chairman approaches them. The old man, Matahara Metsudo, is beyond 90, but still has the aura of the devil. He comes in and intimidates the whole crowd. The man also has the best fighter working for him apparently, so he is not a force to be messed with. No one had messed with him either up until now when the final vote was turned and the re-election of the chairman is announced. So, in order to choose the new chairman, Katahara announces the opening of the Life and Death Kengan Championship. The winning company would be the one who decides on the new chairman. The next day, as Yamashita enters his boss's office, wondering what he had gotten himself into, he finds Ohma strangling Nogi, threatening to kill the man. Apparently, Nogi had decided upon a different fighter to represent him in the battle, and Ohma was furious. Rightly so, he was the one who had won the company the battle so far, so it was unfair that he was replaced. The replacement guy, Hatsumi Sen, is no ordinary guy either, and surprisingly so, can match Ohma's every move, and appears to be a better pick than Ohma. That rarely happens in anime, but Ohma's chances are looking down. Thankfully though, there is another way to get into the Kengan Life-Death Tournament. There were 28 teams who will battle in the tournament, and 5 more positions were open to lower-level companies. All they had to do was register a new company in the name of Yamashita and make their way through the unofficial matches to secure a place in the big 33 teams. Without even considering Yamashita's standpoint on it, the plan is in place. The entrance fee is 100 million yen, and that's exactly how much Nogi lends Yamashita to create Yamashita Corporation and enter the unofficial Kengan match. The battles are a wager between the lower companies for a place amongst the actual Kengan merchants. Ohma doesn't even waste one blow to defeat his opponent and secure a place in the life and death battle. Among all of this chaos, one man secretly sneaks in, a recording of the whole battle, and the video ends up on the computer of none other than Yamashita's older son Kenzo. Turns out the guy was also involved in all of this and was an owner of some company he was running from the shadows. There were a lot of perks in this business: women, money, actually a lot of money, but Ohma actually has his own reasons to fight. Several days later, as he has finally recovered from his past injuries, he remembers back to the day when his master was murdered before him and he had vowed revenge against his killer. Suddenly, another very sus fighter approaches him. His name was Kiryu, and he seems to be a bit too aroused by the idea of fighting. The man claims that he had already killed his master, the man who had murdered Ohma's master, so he had robbed Ohma of his revenge. Kiryu entices Ohma to come and battle him and starts getting aroused by the idea. But Ohma keeps his cool and tells him he will meet the man in the tournament, which, once again, for some reason makes Kiryu horny. Man, this guy has a lot of issues he has to deal with. Sheesh. The next week, all of the selected and non-selected Kengan companies head to a cruise that will take them to the location of the tournament. The top 28 companies and their fighters are given access to the luxurious boat and head ahead, but the rest of the normie companies are pushed to a shabby old cruise ship. There, the owners are asked to stay at the top while the fighters are locked in a cage at the bottom of the ship. Turns out that only 5 of them were going to be a part of the tournament, and so this cage would be a cage match to figure out which 5 companies would progress. Lihito is also there alongside Ohma, and the two start punching people left and right, securing themselves. A lot of the fighters are mediocre and pose no threat to them, but there is one guy who seems to be a pro when it comes to fighting, and the guy's name is Jerry Tyson, who apparently was proficient in Chinese martial arts. In this battle format, people usually copied animals, but Jerry copied the style of human weapons, missiles to be exact. Yes, Jerry was a weird man, and no, he was not on drugs. Or he was probably, but we never know. In order to counter Jerry and his moves, Ohma ends up using Nico style, the style passed on to him by his master, and defeats the American fighter. Lihito, along with Ohma and 3 others, are selected for the final battle, one of them being a guy named Hassad. The group and their company presidents are then taken to the better cruise ship, but Hassad seems to be a bit too salty that he had to beat so many people to be there, but the 28 other fighters did not. He tries to go and beat up Kawahara and teach the old man a lesson, but only a single of his bodyguards is able to beat the guy off the cruise. Wonder why these guys were bodyguards and not fighters instead. That's it for part 1. If this video gets 2,000 likes, I will know you guys like this anime, and I'll continue to part 2. Thanks for watching! Thanks for watching! Thanks for